Hi, this is Ofori, the digital reader, and today what I want to talk about is a device that I recently bought that I've been pretty happy with, that in my opinion completely blows the Kindle Fire out of the water and its price level competitors. The device that I got is the iPlay 50 Mini Pro NFE. I know that's a lot, but it's real specific because they have an iPlay 50, they have an iPlay 50 Mini, they have an iPlay 50 Mini Pro, and they have an iPlay 50 Mini Pro NFE. So they have 4 different versions, all with slight changes in their names. So to shorten it, I'm going to call it the Mini Pro NFE. Well, no, that doesn't work. I guess I got to keep using, I'll call it the iPlay 50 Mini NFE because they don't have an iPlay 50 Mini that has NFE. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But all that to be said, whenever I think about recommending to people who are interested in digital reading what kind of device they should use to get started, my top recommendation is always a small LCD tablet. And the main reason why I recommend a small LCD or OLED, depending on your price range, a small tablet is because of the variety of things it can do. And if you're just starting out in digital reading, versatility is your friend. You really don't want to get locked into an ecosystem and then find out you want to go someplace else or you want to try something else. So typically what I used to do is, if people had the budget, I would recommend an iPad mini, and if people had a lower budget, I would recommend the Kindle Fire. But recently, this has been for years, but recently I bought an iPad Air to read comics and stuff on because, at least for me still, color e-readers just don't do the trick for me for reading comics. So I bought an iPad Air to read comics on, but I just kind of found as I was going out and about that I didn't really take it anywhere with me. It pretty much just stayed home as my second TV. And actually I had a iPad Pro, same thing happened. It just basically stayed at home as my second TV. So I wanted to get a smaller tablet that was more portable, that I felt I would have more faith that I would carry around. So what I did is I kind of wanted to take a look at the cheap, smaller tablets and kind of make a choice as to what I wanted to get. Initially, I didn't take a look at the Kindle Fire because I didn't want to be stuck in Amazon's ecosystem. I kind of wanted something where I could look at comics on different apps, that I could use Kindle, that I could use Kobo, that I could use Libby, and I really started to fall in love with some library apps that I've been messing around with. So I wanted something that could do a little bit of everything, and my biggest concern with the Kindle Fire is that the Kindle Fire is a great deal, but it definitely has some limitations as far as the variety of apps you can put on its version of Android. So the devices that I looked at were, first, I took a look at I've always been a big fan of Lenovo computers. And so I took a look at the Lenovo Tab M8, which was an 8-inch tablet. So I actually purchased it and went to use it. And I realized quickly that because of the specs, low-end processor and only 2 gigabytes of memory, it really chugged. It had real trouble using modern apps. It just was a bad experience. Yes, it was color. The screen wasn't even that great. And it was just kind of a disappointment. Now, admittedly, it was dirt cheap at $69 at the time I purchased it. But it really was a disappointment. And it was not built for modern Android. And that's really the biggest issue with a lot of these cheaper tablets, is that the price is low and the specs are low, and because of that they really struggle with dealing with modern Android. So the next tablet that I took a look at was the Samsung tablet, and that was the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9. That had an 8.7-inch screen, which was a little bit big for me. I didn't really want something that big, but I figured I'd give it a try. And that one was pretty nice. It was $132 at the time that I bought it. But eventually, I just really didn't like the shape of it. It was a nice tablet, to be honest, and it's a tablet that I would recommend to somebody. It definitely was faster than the Lenovo, but it still did chug at times when I had multiple apps up or when I was doing anything that was intensive in the system. So it's the kind of thing where if you're getting this tablet, you just want to make sure that every now and then you make sure that you get out of any apps that you currently had open when you're going to look at it. If you do that, then you should be in decent shape, and it had a very nice screen. But once again, it wasn't for me. It was a little bit too big, and I still wasn't terribly happy with the speed of the device as far as dealing with multiple things and multiple programs. So after I looked at the Samsung, then I finally said, the big issue is that all of these cheap low-end tablets are just struggling with Android 12, 13, and 14, whichever one they're going to be using. So let me take a look at the Kindle Fire and see if maybe it'll work out for what I want to do. Because what I wanted to do was comics, media. I wanted it to be a device that I could carry everywhere. And I also wanted to use my library services. I wanted to use Canopy, which is a movie streaming service that you can get through your libraries. I wanted to use Hoopla, and I wanted to use Libby. I wanted all those available on one device. And also, I use a separate app for reading comic books, which is YC Reader. And I also wanted that on the device. So I was like, let me at least try it with Fire HD. So the Fire HD 8 is the one I got, and that was very good price, $99 when I got it. And just so you know, I'm buying these things, and of course buying them through Amazon, because Amazon will pretty much let you return a dead body. They have a really nice return policy. So I got the Fire HD 8, and one thing I really liked about the Fire HD 8 is because of its optimized Android OS. It was actually quite snappy. Now, it does not have better specs than the Samsung Tab, but because it was kind of a customized OS, it was much snappier. The downside that I didn't like, which was an instant turn off for me, is that basically the Fire HD Tab is like going to Amazon's website and you're just stuck there. It's everything Amazon, and you do everything through Amazon. And the other downside was that I wanted to download my go-to app, which is the Pocketbook app. And the Pocketbook app was not available through Amazon's downloads. And so that was an instant deal breaker for me, because Pocketbook currently is my go-to e-reader. And even on my my iPad Air and on my phone, I use the Pocket Reader app, which is a pretty decent app. And once again, that means I can kind of read and sync everything across my multiple devices. And just in case you're wondering, I'm going to put up a list of all the devices I currently have, just so you kind of get an idea. And the only device that I currently can't use my Pocketbook e-reader app is my Kindle. But that's not a big issue, because obviously I have the Kindle app and I can use Send to Kindle to read something on Kindle. And I have my my reading trackers, which usually keep track of the page that I'm on. And I guess in theory, I could actually use the experimental browser on the Kindle and go to Pocketbook's website, because they actually have a Pocketbook you can actually read your pocketbooks on the web, and I could go to their website and do it there. I never tried it. Maybe I will one day. But all that to be said, all of my devices except one were devices that I could use my pocketbook e-readers on. And so because the Fire HD8 couldn't do that because I couldn't download the app, it was a deal breaker for me. I know that, I can sideload the Google Play Store, but I just really felt like if I have to sideload the Google Play Store, then I'm putting on Google apps that aren't whitelisted by the Fire HD8, and then I'm kind of back in the same issue I was with the other devices, where if I'm putting on apps that aren't whitelisted by the Fire HD8, then that means they're going to be full-blown Android apps, and it's probably going to make the Fire HD8 start to run sluggish because it has no more horsepower than the other devices I tested. Doesn't have any more RAM than the other devices I tested, and it's going to be a dog on full-blown Amazon. And the last device that I looked at, I didn't actually buy this device because I already owned it, and I had owned it in the past, an iPad Mini. The iPad Mini would do everything I needed to do, and it would do it gloriously. But once again, that's a little bit pricey. So I was really looking for something sub $150. And so although if you're thinking about things and you have the budget, an iPad Mini to me is one of the better ways to go for a small device that you can do everything on. If you're entering the world of digital media consumption, then that's my top one. I really just wanted kind of a device that could take anywhere, and I also wanted a device that wasn't too expensive. Since I'm taking it anywhere, if something happened to it, I wouldn't tear my hair out. So I really was looking for stuff that was under $150. So the way I found the iPlay 50 Mini Pro NFE was I was actually just doing a search on Amazon for 8-inch tablets. And so I looked through a couple, and when I looked at the specs on it, I was like, these are some pretty good specs. Now the version I got was 128 gigabytes, and I got it for $129 with $10 off. That's actually sold out. So the one that they have left is 256 gigabytes, and that's $139 with $10 off. So it would be $129. But when I looked at this, I thought, these are some pretty good specs. So I started to do a little research on it. I started to look at some reviews on it, and a couple things really popped out to me. At least from what I saw, the screen looked great. They say that it has 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is 8 gigabytes of physical RAM and 8 gigabytes of virtual RAM. The 8 gigabytes of virtual RAM I could care less about. But the 8 gigabytes of physical RAM, that I was like, whoa, that's a lot for a low-end device. So I figured after I looked at a couple reviews, there were some downsides, but the downsides that they talked about really weren't downsides I was stressed about. One of the downsides that they did talk about, though, was the battery life. And so what I did to combat that is I felt like, okay, I could live with low battery life. I just need to take some steps. So I actually just, when I purchased this device, I also just bought a small battery bank that I could carry around with me. And that would, mean I could recharge it at a moment's notice. And that was good enough for me to take a chance on this, even though some people said it didn't have a long battery life. Now, I've tested the battery life, and I'll get into that later in my video. But first, let's kind of take a quick look at the specs. So taking a look at the specs, it has Android 13. The processor is some no-name processor, MediaTek G99. Who knows what that means? Who cares? For me, one thing I would do is just basically when I bought it, I would run it through its paces and see if I was comfortable with the speed of it. I got 128 gigs. It has a micro SD card slot. It has a full HD screen, and it has the brightness. I didn't know what 320 CD was, but I figured I'd give it a shot, see how I felt about the brightness. I was never going to use the cameras, so that really wasn't an issue for me. Wi-Fi, it had all the most modern types of Wi-Fi. It actually even has a headphone jack for a regular headphone if you want to use that. Of course, it has Bluetooth. It comes with a USB-C cable. It comes with one of those little keys you stick into the side of a device to have the tray pop out so you can put an SD card slot in it. It also comes with a charger, which was pretty nice. And it comes with a screen protector. I didn't use the screen protector, but it does come with a screen protector. This is the device. Just starting it up now. And like I said, it's for Android 13. Now, one thing I should note about the device is that when they ship the device, they don't have an app drawer. They set it up so that all the apps are, you just have to swipe through all the apps, kind of like you would with an iPhone, where with Android, normally you swipe up and you get the Android app drawer. You can change that in the settings, and you'll see that that's what I did. I did change that in the settings. You see, I have an app drawer because I changed it in the settings. As you can see, the screen is really, really nice. And just to kind of show you the snappiness of it, you can see I put on some of my core apps that I'm going to be using all the time. This is the Pocketbook Reader app. It's in dark mode. And you can see when I tap it, nice and snappy. Look at those snappy page turns. And when I navigate, look how snappy that is. The 8 gigabytes, it has a crappy processor, but the 8 gigabytes of RAM really, really gets the job done. Look at how snappy that is. It just makes me so happy to move through something and it doesn't feel like it's about to break apart or start to smoke or something. This is me in the Kindle app as you're looking at the comics, and also YouTube, just so you can kind of take a quick look. Once again, very nice screen. Does everything that you would want it to do.
Lots of folks feeling anxious about our country.
And next, what I'm going to do is just show you kind of what it would look like in a movie. And just once again, look at the viewing angles on that screen. Nice viewing angles. I'm going to go to Tubi and just open up a video just so once again you can kind of take a quick look. Going with White Men Can't Jump. Just show you a couple seconds of that. Look at the viewing angles again. Look at how nice that looks. And once again, this is $129 if you get the 256 gigabyte version. You can see I did a little magic there. You started with the old White Man Can't Jump, and now we're ending with the new one. But still, once again, looking at how that looks, it's just really, really nice looking. So the next thing is I wanted to test the battery life. So what I did is I went to Tubi. So we're talking about a battery life of almost 7 hours, constantly running a movie with Wi-Fi on. And the screen brightness is at 60%. So the next thing that you're going to hear is me just using the audio. I heard some people say the sound isn't great because it just has a mono speaker. So I thought I'd just let you hear for yourself. Now, one thing I should note, just like most modern Android devices, they do have a nightlight mode, and that nightlight mode can change the warmth of the screen. It can even change the intensity of the color. So you could actually change this to a black and white screen if you wanted to. So I keep that nightlight mode as a quick option in my drop down menu. And sometimes I'll use that, but to be honest, I found I don't really use it as much as I thought I would. And that's mainly because when I'm reading on this tablet, usually I'm reading for less than an hour. I'm not really getting into 5 and 6 hour sessions. So that's it. That's the iPlay 50 Mini Pro NFE. Great device. The price does fluctuate. I should note that I checked a couple minutes before I posted this video, and the 128 gigabytes were back in stock, and they went up from a $10 coupon to a $30 coupon. So you can actually now get the one I have that I paid $129 for. You can get it for $99. And the 256 gigabyte version you can get for $109.99. That's an even more amazing deal. As far as my personal feelings about it, a lot of people talked about the sound. I have no issue with the sound. Honestly, mostly I use Bluetooth earphones when I'm listening to it, but when I've had to not use the earphones, I felt the sound was fine. The biggest gripe that I have is sometimes the orientation change is a little bit sticky, where if you flip it, it'll stay in portrait, and then you have to like flip it again and it'll switch to landscape. That might be something I can change in the settings, so I'll play with that. But once you flip it, it's not really that big an issue. The other thing is the battery life is okay, but I find I'm pretty much charging it every other day if I'm using it every night. But one thing I've found that I've started to do that really does help with the battery life is it doesn't really have a long time to start up from fully being powered off. So once I'm done using it for the night or something like that, I just fully power it off until the next day when I'm using it. And I'll usually just leave it, on that night or that day that I'm using it. And then at night, or if I know I'm done with using it for the day, I'll fully power it off. And that actually will get me about 3 days on the battery life. And like I said, if I'm really watching for a long time and it really starts to go down, I just go ahead and hit it with my battery bank. And this is the battery bank I purchased. I love this battery bank. It is a little bit more than some of the super cheap versions, but it has a USB cable attached. It can do power delivery. It is just a really nice little tiny one that has 10,000 milliamp battery. So I would highly recommend it for all your devices, but it's a real nice device to have with this. So this is Ofori, the digital reader. If you have any questions, let me know. But I just thought I really wanted to talk about this device because I just feel it's so much better than the Kindle Fire. And it does everything the Kindle Fire does except better. It has Android 13, and the price fluctuates, but you can get it anywhere from $99 to $129. And that's just a great deal for an entry-level small tablet that you can use kind of as your first digital media device. So, have a good day and keep reading.